Good afternoon. Today we will talk about the Vice Directory of Academic Processes. This group is formed by Daniel Nepeke, Santiago Tejada, and myself, Nicole Huitos. We will focus mainly on the area of the library. That is really important for us as students because we need to understand the different concepts that need to be constructed around the information that we recollect. And we need to do this through books, magazines, and different resources that are allowed to us in the library. And this information needs to be veridic and really good for us to complement our education. Otherwise, we will give bad information to our different tasks and assignments that we need to deliver. So, the library is composed by three different areas: the collections, services, and the histories. This will be explained later by my partner Santiago. But right now, the important thing is to understand how we can control that the information and the resources that are located in the library will maintain secure towards a disaster. And right now, we will pass with my partner that will explain to you more specifically about this topic.
To start, we're going to talk to you about the risk matrix. That is in order to identify every problem that could happen in the library and which are the people that ensure that this problem is solved or does not happen. As I said before, we need to understand the organization chart in order to identify those people. As my partner Nicole said before, the library is divided in three main areas. There are histories, collections, and services. And next, we are going to talk to you about two main risks that we identified that could happen and interrupt the main processes of the library. The first one is the strike of the employees. As you can see, the risk of this happening is very low, but the danger that it could do to the library is extreme. And the decision that we took is mitigate that risk. The risk is in charge of the director of the library, and the second one is the flowing of the installations. Again, this risk is very low and the impact is very extreme, but we have to accept this risk. Why? Because the risk is not controlled by the library itself, but is controlled by the university, because this is contained in that one.
The Information Security Management System is a set of rules given by ISO. Those rules keeps controls on the implementing of SI. So this takes into account the actual policies that have the library in terms of security. So it takes them and classifies them in various ranges. Those levels are used to search for weakness and to avoid future damages into the system and the library itself. So here we have a generalized form of the chart that is used to implement the SGSI controls. Here, as you can see, we have some areas that are important, the library aspects, and we like to highlight this one. This is the process of authorization to include some new information actives in the library. So we have it in the level optimized because it is one of the main processes that the library does every day. It needs to assure that the information and the actives that get into it are pretty much well done. So the next framework is COBIT, and COVID as a framework applied into the library allows us to have two main things that are important. So we have the planning and the organization. The first one, the planning, allows us to identify a schedule and forecast the main architecture, the architecture that is already implemented into the library, and the organization that helps us to keep everything into perspective in the way that we want to improve the library. So it helps us to have a better vision into the things that we are doing. So this is the chart that is used to implement this framework. It has three main parts. The first one is the processes listed here, the information criteria, and the resources of TM. So this chart looks for give the priorities to some information criteria. The P's are the principles that are really important to the process, and those S are the secondary things. Those are less important, but they have to be into account in the process. So as you can see, though, there are some white blank spaces, and those could are in some cases unnecessary or are necessary but are already defined in other frameworks like TOGAF. So up next we will have some DRP.
Okay, we will explain about the DRP, that is the disaster recovery plan, specifically applied to the situation of the flooding of the university as a whole. So, we know that the DRP has 4 stages.
The first stage is the business actual as usual. The second one is when the disaster occurs, when something happened, that in this case is the flooding of the library. The third one is the recover of that issue, but the processes can't be done as usual. And the final one is when the library restored to the initial phase, to the initial stage.
As you may see in the graphic, these need to be as the first one, the green one. And right now we are focusing only in the RPO and the RPO. And we specify the first one, the RTO, as the recovery time objective. Needs to be a maximum of 20 hours for the system and 2 days maximum for the physically installations. And this of course because the system is more important than installations, because if something like a situation like someone borrowed a book or any situation like that, the information of the person that has the book will be lost, and also the book, therefore money will be lost.
And another important thing to highlight is that 80% of the critical processes will need to be restored by the hour 16.
If that doesn't happen, then we will need to get another different plan because we're losing time. And
the RPO, the recovery point objective, it will be zero tolerance, because as my partner Nicole said before, we cannot afford to lose any information, any book that is in the library.
And finally, after happening all of these stages, we need to understand that the system, people, infrastructure, and data need to be maintained towards all the process. System being Eureka, people need to be the employees, infrastructure, the library itself, and the data itself, the information that needs to be maintained towards all the library, that is fundamental to all the students. So in conclusions, we can see a picture of the library itself that we have here, and all the reference that led us to this point of the investigation. And we as a group conclude that all these processes, all the COVID, the ISO normatives are fundamental towards the processes of risk and control